Hey, everybody, this is Cody Bateman. Welcome to a new episode of our Relationship Marketing Podcast. Very excited to have everybody with us today. I just want to reach out and congratulate all of you who are students of prosperity, students of this new term called Relationship Marketing. Appreciate you tuning in each and every week. We have incredible guests on this show who have been sharing golden nuggets of wisdom with this new concept called Relationship Marketing. In the sales funnel, in the marketing funnel, in all kinds of different industries. You got to pay attention to it. I'm telling you, you got to pay attention to this new discipline called relationship marketing because it gets results. It's the bottom line is it gets results. Relationship marketing is about the first word more than the second. 80% of the time, it ought to be about relationships. Sprinkle marketing in about 20% of the time. Most of our guests talk about a philosophy similar to that. And listen, we have an exciting show for you today. Oh my gosh, I can't wait for this one. This is a gentleman that I've had the opportunity to do some business with over the years, and I've watched him over the last probably 15 years and how his career has developed and the contribution that this guy has made to the business world has just been incredible. Mr. Todd Falcone, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Cody. How you doing?
Bend, Oregon. Bend,
Yes.
Oregon. So I heard in the pre-show that you've landed and you're no longer going to move anywhere. That's the magical place. Is that right?
We have found our happy place. That is for sure.
So a lot of outdoors stuff that you do. I know you do a lot of fishing and winter sports and stuff like that. I mean, you still doing the do you ski? Like you're a snow skier, right?
Oh yeah, I got 61 days in on the mountain this last winter. So great skiing, 30 minutes from the house, incredible fly fishing, some of the best mountain biking in the country, rivers, mountains, clean air. It's just a beautiful place to live.
61 days on the mountain, but yet you travel all over the world teaching on the principle of network marketing. How do you do it all?
You just do it, man. You gotta work hard and play hard. That's the way I've always been. It's like wherever you are, be there. So if I'm playing, I'm playing. And if I'm working, I'm working. I'm getting it done.
So your kids, Gianni and Joey, how old are they now?
Gianni just turned 15 last week, and he's been behind the wheel and driving, and that's kind of scary. and Joey is 12. He'll be 13 coming up here in a couple months. So the boys are loving it here too. And Gianni's a big skateboarder and skier, and Joey has gotten himself into rock climbing, so he's a rock climber and skier.
Wow. That's great. It's amazing how these kids grow up on us. They grow up so fast. Remember when I first started working with you, they were like little teeny kids.
Yeah. Like one wasn't even born when I first met you.
Yeah. So, all right, let's jump in. Let's do some fun stuff here. First of all, I just want to talk about, there's all kinds of stuff that you've done. And, you know, in the pre-show, I'm sure they talked about all your accolades and stuff, but I just want to jump right in. One of your latest projects, the book titled Fearless Networking. I'm real excited to talk a little bit about this. First of all, I love the title itself, Fearless Networking. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you came up with the title in the first place? I mean, where did all that come from?
When I started in network marketing 30 years ago, I was scared to death. I was a stuttering, sweaty 22-year-old kid that didn't know anything about network marketing. And I was very, very fearful. And through a process of just doing the business and developing my own confidence around the network marketing profession, around myself, I became what I would consider fearless. And we ended up, I don't even know where I got it, but ultimately we ended up using the term the fearless networker. And we ended up trademarking that, and that became my brand. So then when I wrote that first book, Fearless Networking was just a super logical title. So that's where that came from. And it's not about not having fear. I still have fear. We all have some level of fear, but it's about the willingness to push the fear aside long enough to get done whatever needs to get done so you can push through to the other side.
So we have a lot of listeners that are young, 20-something kids that are just jumping up and getting into their careers, many in network marketing, some in direct sales, inside sales, a lot of different professions represented from our listener base. I want to speak to that young group right now, that those 20-somethings that are just jumping out and going back to when you were 20-something and scared to death. as we start our careers, we're scared to death. And as we get midway through, sometimes we're scared to death. And now I'm at a stage in my career where I've got to reinvent myself, which is part of people's careers. And so I'm scared to death again. So how do you go from being scared to death to being the fearless networker? I mean, what is the process?
Well, I mean, for me, it was picking a career path. I accidentally got into network marketing. It wasn't something that I sought out. I literally got a call from a guy that cold called me out of the white pages as I was graduating from college, and thought I was going to a job interview, found myself looking at network marketing, and conceptually it just made a lot of sense to me. I saw it. I thought, wow, this product we can share with people. We can make a retail profit. We can build a team. We can earn a percentage on everything that they do. I mean, this is brilliant. What's not to get about this? Everybody's going to do this thing, right? And then all of a sudden I realized not everybody thought the same way I did. And, people saw the glasses half empty, or they were skeptical, or they had an attitude, or they had a friend or an opinion even about something that they didn't know anything about. But I saw something in that career path. And if somebody's listening here and they have a career path that they're on, whether it's network marketing or any type of sales or anything else for that matter, you choose your career path, and it starts with a decision. And very early on, and I don't know why I did it. It was just like, I just did it. I made the decision that I was going to do network marketing. Most people start their careers and they're like, oh, I'll see how it goes. I'll give it a shot. And I think that's really a recipe for disaster when somebody gets into something and they essentially give it a little timeline. That even in my network marketing career, when somebody would come to me and say, I'll give it a shot, I'll give it a go, we'll see how it, I'll give it the college try. It's like, I don't even want to work with somebody like that, because they're already on their way out before they ever get in. One of the things that I did is I just made the decision. And when you make a decision, when you draw that line in the sand that you're going to do that thing, whatever that thing is, and that, bailing out or backing out or changing isn't an option for you, all of the things that need to avail themselves for you to succeed in whatever that is, open themselves up to you, because now that's your only choice. Like, if you think about that, if I'm in sales, I want to be the best inside sales or best outside salesperson I can possibly be, and you're choosing that as your career path, and you're not going to exit out and go do something else, then all of the things that you need to be successful in that have to make themselves available to you, because that's now your only choice. My only choice is to succeed in this thing that I'm in. So I did that in network marketing, and I had frustrating days and months and a couple frustrating years, but I sought out the expertise. I started to learn how to do it. I paid attention to people that were winning in the business that I was in. I did my best to copy their success, to emulate their success. And I started to see things to happen for me. And, there were plenty of days where I was frustrated and discouraged, but the difference between somebody who's frustrated and discouraged and that person who's made a commitment versus somebody who hasn't, the person who hasn't made a commitment, as soon as they get to that discouragement point, they're done. They're out. That's when they bail out. And I just never had an option to bail out of the business.
So as I listen to you talk there, I just can't help but think of the word consistency. And I've watched you over the years, and I've watched how you've trained and taught people. And consistency has always been a theme that you use. Obvious, it's important for obvious reasons. So you talk about, make a decision, be committed, and stay consistent into some fundamental principles. So again, going back to that young kid growing up, discouraging day, you got done with the motivational tape and you got done with your company's convention and you're all jazzed and pumped up. And there's that proverbial moment when you go and you got to pick up the phone, or you got to do a text, or you got to do something to reach out to somebody in the name of prospecting or recruiting or whatever. And the rejection comes, that rejection hits, and you're told, well, I got to be consistent. I got to call 10 more people or get a hold of 10, and you get 10 rejections in a row, and some are not nice at all. We've all been there and done that. And these young guys are starting to be there and do that. How do you talk them off the ledge, man? Well, what do you do?
Well, it's funny you bring up the word consistency, because literally as soon as we're done with this, I'm actually producing a video on the subject of consistency. And that is literally the thing, this glaring thing that fires back at me with all the clients that I work with is the lack of consistency, or how do I stay consistent? One of the things that I haven't yet mentioned is this whole idea of having clarity with what's on the other side, with exactly what you're looking for. So when you have a clear vision in your mind as to where this path is going to take you, it then doesn't really matter what the obstacles are. Yeah, they still hurt. They're not fun. It's part of the process. But there's a lack of clarity in terms of the direction that you're heading, that's when you get knocked out. So there was something, I think it was my naivete or something when I got started in network marketing, being so new, that I believed it. I believed in the numbers. I believed in the possibility. I believed in the huge potential that existed in network marketing. So I just, I saw that. I could see the picture of what that was for me. I just didn't know when it was going to happen, but I was super clear on having the kind of freedom and kind of income that network marketing was going to provide. So regardless of whether I had 10 bad prospects in a row or a week of bad prospecting or people quitting my team or whatever the frustration was, I had that level of clarity. So for people that are struggling in whatever occupation it is, my question to you is, do you have a level of clarity about the direction that you're heading and what that real end result looks like? You got to look, you got to see it, smell it, taste it, feel it. You got to literally put yourself into the future and future pace yourself into what your life will be like when you've achieved whatever it is that you're looking to achieve in that career path that you're on.
Good stuff, my friend. Good stuff. So in the pre-show, we talked a little bit about relationship. Of course, the theme of this show is relationship marketing. I have a new book out, Power of Human Connection, how relationship marketing is transforming the way people succeed. And you've done some really cool things. I mean, good heck, I could start listing all this stuff. Cracking the code to success in network marketing, how to win in the game of prospecting, the little black book of scripts, insider secret to recruiting professionals, and the list goes on of stuff that you've done. It's just really been fun to watch you. So what is it? When you talk to people today, it's funny because they get, let's take network marketing example. They get in the business, and I remember in the olden days, and you mentioned this, in the olden days, I believed in the big numbers too. I remember first time I got sold on the concept of network marketing was the duplication thing. If you get 3 and they get 3 and they get 3, all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of people that you make a small percentage on, and you total it all out and you can make this much money per month. And that was the old school way of doing things. But boy, I'll tell you, it worked on me. Really worked on me because I got the concept of duplication. I thought it was really good. One of the things I'm noticing in your profession, the network marketing profession, is that there seems to be, and I really want to get your take on this, there seems to be a shift going on. The old school, we come from the school of, show me the money, man. Show me the big money, the big checks. I want to, I'm a business guy. I'm a go-getter. I'm going to make a bunch of money. Lifestyle, it's all cool and everything else. I'm noticing a shift now where it's really more it's more about culture. It's more about being part of a cause, a part of something grand. It's more about, let me just, give me 400 or 500 extra bucks a month to pay my bills so that I can go be part of have some more freedom to be part of a cause of some kind. Do you notice that shift going on?
Yeah, no, I for sure do. And, I started network marketing in 1989, and I remember the testimonial videos were all people standing in front of their Mercedes and their Porsche and their diamond rings and bling and all this in their houses. And there's still some of that done in network marketing. But I think also, honestly, the regulatory environment that we're in causes companies to do things a little bit differently. Some of the companies have gotten more focused on product focus, being a product focused company, which in the end, every network marketing or direct sales company, their job is to put products in the hands of end users, not to be paid on recruitment. So I think it's good that companies have shifted. And I think it's also good that, there are organizations that are focusing on, like you said, culture and being part of something that's bigger than themselves. And that it's not all about, let's focus on, the person who's making $100,000 a month or $1 million a year. Let's figure out a way for somebody to pay their bills. Let's figure out a way for somebody to supplement their income and save for their kids' college education. I was just doing some research right before we started doing this on just kind of the trends in terms of savings and retirement for people in America. And it's kind of scary. I mean, the percentage of people that have any money in their savings accounts is pretty small. It's, the closer you get to retirement, you're probably going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm supposed to be retiring here and I don't have any money in the account. And I think network marketing, even on a part-time and a small income type of situation, is a really good solution for people. And so I think a lot of other companies are adopting that and really realizing that, especially, and then you combine that, like I said, with the regulatory environment that we're in, which, it should be that way. We should abide by the rules and do things the right way so that, we're not putting out information that's false, and that where people begin to have this perception of network marketing that's changed. Like, I don't like the fact that I can say MLM has a blank attached to it in front of every audience that I speak in front of. And every single time, no matter what country that I'm in, they can put the word stigma in there. That's the word. That's the word that they use. It's like, wait a minute, that's the business I've been in for 30 years. You're telling me it's got, this super negative connotation. I don't like that. And the way we do that, the way we change that is by, rising more professionals, people that do things the right way, which is one of the primary reasons why I do what I do and why I've dedicated my life to teaching and training and helping people to understand how to do this in a professional manner, is so that we can create in the future. When somebody says, is this network marketing? You're like, yeah, it is. They're like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. I've been looking for a company. Which one are you in? Rather than, the common kind of thing that happens when somebody, and not that everybody has a bad connotation about network marketing. That's certainly not the case, but there's enough of them out there where it causes even distributors that are in the business to kind of hesitate, not go at the level that they could be going.
So again, in the pre-show, we were talking about some different things, and you've been through a lot in the last 30 years and taught all these things that we touched on. And you mentioned the importance of relationship, and you're doing some new things in your training in regards to creating genuine relationships with people. I think that ties into what you're saying. People want to be more part of culture today. They want to be part of something special. They want to feel important. They want to make connections with other people, and that's focused now. And your focus is shifting more to how do you create that genuine human connection in everything you do? Can you kind of share some of the things you're teaching out there on that?
Yeah, well, I do a lot of interviews and people get me on their shows and stuff. And this one guy pointed a question at me and he goes, because he looked at my history, and in 30 years, I've never had an implosion, right? I've had very consistent earnings year in and year out. I've never had this super up and down, crazy roller coaster ride, which is great. And he said, well, why is that? Because a lot of people in this profession have these massive ups and downs. I said, well, two reasons. Number one is because every single day I focus on revenue producing activity. That's number one. I mean, there's never a day that passes in my life, even today as a speaker, where I don't do something to go drum up some new business, because that's what I'm in the business of doing. But most importantly, the reason I've been so successful is because I'm a relationship builder. And he goes, well, what do you mean by that? I said, well, years ago, I learned that, very simple concept. People buy from those that they like and trust. If you want to do business with somebody, I mean, if you're choosing to do business with somebody, are you going to do business with the person that makes you feel good, that makes you feel special? Or are you going to go do business with the person that treats you like crap? And even for people that are listening to this, I mean, think of 5 businesses that you love, that you continue to go back to over and over and over again. And then what are the reasons why you go back there? And think of 5 companies that you'll never, ever do business with again. And what are the reasons that you don't do business with them anymore? And you're going to start to come up with this pretty interesting list. You're like, oh, wow, well, these companies make me feel amazing. These people do things differently. Like, years ago, like when I learned, okay, well, people buy from those that they like and trust. And I knew I was in a sales business, being in the network marketing space. I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do everything I can to build relationships with people and to create an environment that's conducive to production. So I sought out to be nice. I sought out to be professional, if I said something, I was going to do it. If I said something, I was going to do it and then some. So under promise and over deliver. This whole idea of wowing somebody, going beyond what they expect that you're going to do. They're like, wait, you didn't have to do that, but you did. That's amazing. That creates a different feeling. And then like in the network marketing profession, I've been teaching this a lot, and this works perfectly in sales too, is, okay, so if the only time that you call somebody is when you want something, you're never going to get it. Okay. It's like salespeople, they go out and the only time they go call on their client is when they're trying to, get the next deal, next contract. Or the only time a network marketer sometimes, oh, I'm only calling you. In fact, I got guys that call me on my phone. I got 2 buttons on my phone, a red one and a green one. There's one guy in particular comes to mind. Every time he calls me, he gets a red button, because the only time he's calling me is when he's pitching me a deal. Right. He's never called me in between to say, what's up, how you doing? Like, I grew up in Seattle. I lived there for 17 years. I moved to California, Long Beach. I lived there for 8 years, moved to Monterey for 11, moved back to Seattle for 8, moved to Scottsdale for 5, and I've been in Bend, Oregon for 2 years. In all of those places, my friends that I grew up with, my friends from Monterey, my friends from Long Beach State, my friends from Monterey, Scottsdale, I'm the guy that continues to reach out and do what I call emotional deposits, just to reach out and say, what's up? How's it going? Send either a card, send a text, pick up the phone and call them. Reaching out, not to say, oh, I got this thing, but just to say hi, to stay connected, so that if and when I decided, let's say I was doing a business and I found something I wanted to do, and I picked up the phone and called my friend Bart up in Seattle, who I haven't seen for 30 years, but I've stayed connected with him. I said, Bart, I've got this thing that I'm doing. I want to show you what I'm up to. He's going to be responsive versus, dude, you haven't called me ever. And so this is something I've done for years. And like all of these different relationships from all of these places that I've lived, if it wasn't for me, maybe there's a couple other people, but if I didn't make the effort, those relationships would have dried up. Relationships are like a garden. You got to water them. You got to fertilize them. You got to take care of them. You got to prune it. You got to take care of it. And so that to me has always been huge. One other thing that I think is really big is, and I cannot believe how many, like in my phone, I have over 6,000 contacts in my phone, personal contacts that I've added to my phone. This is not, I mean, I've had to add them to my phone individually. They're not something I uploaded. They're personal contacts, and every single contact in my phone, I have notes on those people. There's not a single person in my phone where it says John, and I'm looking at it, I'm going, who's John? Who's John? I don't even know who John is. Most people have people on their phone, they don't even know who they are. I got notes, where we met, what we talked about, who referred me to them, what their kids' names are, what their birthday, anniversary, whatever was important in that conversation. Then if I have another conversation, I add another note to it. One other thing that I do that I think is super critical, and this is, I believe, what literally creates a Grand Canyon between you and anybody else you might compete with, is when you find out what someone's deepest passion or interest is, what they're really into. Like if you get into a conversation, all of a sudden their subject comes up and they just light up like a Christmas tree. You got to remember that. I'm like, oh my gosh. You know, like you know me, so you know, like I love fishing, I love the outdoors, I love skiing, I love anything about being in the trees. Even if you looked at my Facebook page and you didn't know me, somebody could go, I know what Falcone's into. I know you're into motorsports. I know that's a big passion of yours. So, you know, when you know what somebody's interest is, then you can feed it to them.
Right.
And so if I see, for example, an article of this guy on doing this crazy motorcycle ride, I'm like, oh my gosh, Cody would like that, and I send you a quick little YouTube clip to you. You're like, that's 2 minutes of entertainment for you. But what are you thinking to yourself? Todd knows me. That's super cool. I see an article about some crazy new ride, or you see, I'm out and about. I see something that makes me immediately think of you. $3 gift, $5, $10, whatever it is. I'm like, oh, I got to get that surprise, you know, sending something when they least expect it. And that to me is really, really important, because you cannot make a withdrawal from an empty account. It's the same thing with the bank. They can't go into a bank and try to take money out until they put money into it. And it's the same exact thing with relationships.
Wow. That's good stuff. Really, really good stuff. So, you know, we have this conversation come up quite a bit on this show with some of our other guests. They mentioned some of the things. You've done some really cool stuff. I love what you talked about, putting notes in your phone next to all those contacts that you've individually put in there. You spent time. I mean, you've spent time on these names. It's not just data to you. It's a person, and that's why you take the time to do that, which is really cool. When people hear this, when people hear by the way, you're killing it, man. You're talking fast. You're flying through all this stuff. And when people hear it, a lot of times, and this is one of the things as a trainer that I deal with a lot, is when you're in front of an audience and you're teaching this stuff, the stuff you just said in the last 3 minutes, you're teaching this from the stage. You see a lot of people in the audience, they just kind of glaze over. They got this idea that, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to do what Todd just said? How do I get 6,000 names in my phone? I mean, how do I follow up with people? How do I just reach out randomly? And it sounds or feels like you do that for hours and hours a day. Does that take you hours and hours a day to do that?
No, it doesn't. And
what was the key to making it work?
First of all, it's not about having the 6,000 numbers. That just happens to be how many I have in my phone, and that's an accumulation over many, many, many years. The key thing is just being smart about it. It's going back to the fundamentals. If you're in a relationship business, which if you're in network marketing, if you're in direct selling, if you're in inside sales, outside sales, if you're running any kind of team, if you're any kind of business like that, and you know that it's about relationships, and you've got to do everything that you can to build solid relationships, regardless of whether you're doing business with them or not. Whether they do business with you today, in the future, or never, it doesn't matter, because what you're doing is you're creating a flourishing relationship. I have people that send me business that I've never done business with. They've just thrown business my direction because of how they feel about me, even though we've actually never done business together. The whole idea of like taking notes on somebody, that's just ridiculous. That's too easy. That's not hard. If I just had a meeting with you, I get done with a meeting and I add those notes to my phone. If I'm sitting here on the phone with you, and I literally, to this day, I still log every single outgoing call, contact, everything that I do. So I keep records of everything, and I keep notes on every single call, fax, or text message, Facebook, whatever the conversation is. And then I can easily take that and put that into, that particular contact record if I intend on talking to them again. But again, it's and it's funny because I've been doing a lot of teaching about this on stage, and then I'll stop and I'll go, okay, do me a favor, take out your phone. And this is an exercise, and you guys can do this real quick if you're, listening to this, but or do it a little bit later. But I have people in an exercise, take out your phone, go to your address book, go to the first letter in your address book, which is the letter A, and start scrolling until you find the very first person where it's been at least 6 months since you've had any conversation with them. And then as soon as you find it, hold up your phone. And I did this with like 1,200 people a couple weeks ago, and like within 60 seconds, everybody's holding up their phone. And there's like 30% of the audience where it's literally the first person on their contact list. I go, good, cool. Now here's what you're going to do. Open up a text message to that person. And if it was Alan, and I hadn't talked to Alan in 6 months, it'd be Alan, Todd Falcone, what's up? It's been too long. How you doing? Let's catch up. Whatever the message is in your own language, that to me is just a reconnection exercise. And that's something I do regularly. And people are blown away because, and I set it up, one of three things is going to happen when you do this exercise. Number one, the person's going to call you back immediately because they're so excited that you reached out to them. Number two, they're going to text you back with, who is this? And that's obviously a person that doesn't put notes in their phone. They're like, who is this person? Or number three, they're going to text you back and say, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to hear from you. Yeah, let's definitely catch up. And then you use that opportunity to just connect, just to say, what's up? How's it going? It's been too long. How are the kids? How are the wife? What's happening? Not, here's, I got to tell you about my business. But you're creating this opportunity for yourself for business to happen in the future because you're perceived as somebody who's made an effort. And it's not that the only time that you reach out is when you want to talk to them or when you want to pitch that person something. So it's a great exercise. Pretty much every day I'll reach out to a handful of people just to connect with no intention of doing business, just to say, hey, what's going on? How you doing?
Yeah, it's great advice. I think it goes back to how we started the conversation. It really, these activities really just come down to consistency. It's like you make it a habit. It becomes it's habit for you. I mean, it's habit for you to reach out. Hey, what's up? What's going on? Maybe do that 2 or 3 people a day kind of thing. And that's one of the things that we talk a lot about is the importance of creating habit and being consistent in your habit. Most of the highly successful people that have been on this show will tell me that they spend on average about an hour a day doing these things you talked about. And that includes their social media and everything. On average, about an hour a day. But the key is they do it every single day, an hour a day, like going to the gym. And it's consistent. And that's all it takes. And an hour a day is nothing. I mean, an hour a day is nothing to do these kind of things. And if you maintain that consistency, you can build up. Over time, you end up with 6,000 names and the notes on everybody. So, and I think that's an important message for everybody. I want to shift a little bit. I'm going to have a little fun with you here for a second. The Little Black Book of Scripts. That was quite a while ago. You did that. How long ago did you do that?
I think I produced it in 2004 or 2005.
Okay, 2004 or 5. So, are you still a believer in scripts?
I am. And actually, I remember having a conversation with you and you said, man, you really like scripts. I said, yeah, I mean, I like scripts, but most importantly, I like results.
Yeah.
The reason I actually did that script book is, when I started network marketing, I didn't know what to say. And so they handed me a script, gave me a framework of a conversation. And over the years, I had a lot of different types of conversations that I would have with people: warm market, cold market referrals, customer calls, follow-up calls, voicemails, recorded overview, all sorts of different things. And I had it all on paper. I ended up putting it together in a book, which is the Little Black Book of Scripts. And it's funny because I produced that thing like tail end of 2004, and it's still one of my top selling training programs because, newer people are like, I don't know what to say. And if they don't know what to say, they're probably not going to say something. So if you at least give them a semblance of a conversation, that's good. I don't think they need to necessarily sit there and sound like they're reading it. Like, I'm calling you because your name was referred to me as someone who might, that's not good. I mean, look at it and give you the framework of a conversation. Then you can flow on your own after you kind of know what the basic agenda of a conversation is supposed to be.
So the reason I bring it up is I remember you and I years ago ended up kind of having a debate about this. I was not a fan of scripts at the time, and you were, and we got, in a little a nice conversation about that. I remember that years ago. I got to tell you, I've actually shifted pretty dramatically in my belief about scripts. And have you ever read the book Way of the Wolf, Jordan Belfort?
It's literally on my nightstand right now. I've definitely read it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you know that he's got a message in there about scripting, and he talks about, I think there's a show, I think it was Braveheart. He talks about the show Braveheart, where who's the movie star in that show?
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson. He talks about Mel Gibson when he comes up on the horse and he's like, "We stand for our freedom." You know, he's got this big speech that he does, and it's just spellbinding. It's like us as watchers of the show are spellbound by this speech. And Belfort in this book, he talks about that. Then he says, "Do you think the guy just said that off the top of his head? Do you think he just, you know?" But he went on to say, you know, it was scripted, and he learned it, and he memorized it, and he got his emotion into it, and he understood it. And that's the reason that we binge watch TV shows today, because people script these emotional, impactful things. I think about the show Rocky, where he's talking to his son, you know, about failure versus success, you know, and I play that script all the time. And man, that's one of the best speeches in the world. Well, it was scripted.
Yeah.
Like, it was scripted, and he did that. Now, the reason I bring that up in the context of sales, for years I've never been a fan of script, as you know, but after reading this book and listening to Belfort, it made me realize, and he kind of points on this, made me realize, you know, the reason that you script your presentation is so that you don't have to worry about your presentation. So now you can focus your efforts on listening to people and truly listening to people versus worrying about what you're going to say. That's what sold me, Todd. That sold me like instantly. It was like, you know, that makes sense. That really makes sense. Now, with that being said, I want to ask you a question about this today, and it comes up in this show a lot, is the importance of assessment. The word assessment comes up a lot in the sales process. You want to meet with somebody. You want to ask lots of questions. You want to assess people's needs, and then put you in a place of service where you can help them with those needs. And it may be that they don't buy your product at all. You're just assessing need, and you want to be a help to that need. So that's the new relationship marketing process to sales, for sure. It's what works. Again, people only do business with those they know, love, and trust. And so it's really important, that a whole assessment process. Now, having that been said, now you got to assess people's needs. How does scripting fit into that? Like, I'm going to assess, I don't know where this guy's going. I mean, I'm going to assess his need, and I might end up clear over here, or I might end up over there. So how does scripting fit into the assessment process?
Yeah, it's a great question. In fact, in one of my main scripts, it's called my go-to script inside of the Little Black Book, there are a number of questions that are needs assessment questions that most of the time, you know, I wouldn't have known to ask those questions unless I was taught to ask those questions. Like, you know, something like, first of all, identifying, so what do you do for a living? What do you like the most about what you do? Is there anything about what you do that you don't like? You know, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? You know, whatever those questions are, they're the reason those questions, I would have never thought, well, what do you like most about what you do? Well, is there anything that you don't like? Because then once you find out what they do like and what they don't like, then you can come back and say, listen, if I could show you something that would get you more of what you do like and less of what you don't like, and make, you know, 15% more, is that something you might be inclined to take a look at? So it gives people, like I said, it gives them a framework, but, you know, in needs assessment. And I think, you know, a lot of times network marketers just, you know, attack people, and they're like, they don't even, it's like they're just trying, let me tell you about my thing, rather than let me even find out if you're open to my thing. Let me find out if you're even in a position where you're looking to, you know, create additional income, or whether or not my product would even, you know, suit any of your needs or wants or dissatisfactions. But we can't do that until we ask questions. And a lot of times scripts are questions. You know, there's questions that we're asking, and giving people like you were talking about scripting, for example, you know, like in a follow-up type of a situation, if I say, well, follow up with somebody, well, that's nice to tell somebody to follow up with somebody, but how do I schedule a follow-up? How do I do it? Well, okay, well, you can ask for a follow-up. Well, here's something that's powerful. If I said to you, Cody, can I get back to you? You could say yes or no, because I asked you a yes or no question. But if I put one word in front of that question, when can I get back to you? It presupposes that I can get back to you. So I've just magnified the power of that question with one single word. And then if I want to make it even more powerful, I could say, hey, Cody, when can I get back to you in the next 24 hours? And put a timeline on it. So most people don't know how to formulate those questions unless they've had some kind of sales training or training on how to communicate effectively with people. But that's why we would give something in the written word. So it's like, oh, I would never even think to ask that. No, that's going to make my call to that person a little bit easier. And then, like you said, I don't have to be thinking about, oh my gosh, well, I don't even I've used the term. It's like, what was the cartoon character? The Tasmanian devil spinning around. It's like, that's what's going on in that person's brain, the salesperson or the network marketing distributor, because they're like, oh my gosh, what if they say this? What if they come back? And they're so spun out in their brain that they can't, deal with what comes to them. Like when you are relaxed and you know the direction that you're going, you have some guidance and somebody asks you a question, you can handle the question and you're not worried about so much what's going to happen because you're literally guiding the direction of that conversation that you're in.
Well, that's good. So with that debate, you were right. I was wrong. It was the only time. So.
The only time. No, that's true.
Hey, so you do a lot of training overseas. And so what are some of the countries that you do a lot of work in?
I've done a lot of training in Europe, all over Europe. I did a training a year and a half ago in Egypt, Eastern Europe, Central, South America, Australia. I've been over to Asia a number of times. So I've spoken now in 30 different countries. So it's been
so in a lot of those places, do you have interpreters that you have language barriers, some of that stuff?
Yeah, in some of those places, most of the European countries also speak English. Some of the Asian countries do. If I'm in Mexico, I'm having simultaneous translation. When I did my training in Egypt for like 12,000 people, it was like 10:30 at night, and I was standing in front of these crazy, huge group of people, and I was being translated into Farsi at the same time, which was crazy. So I'd talk and speak a sentence, and then, they would do it in Farsi, and then I would do it, and then they would do it in Farsi. So I think it depends on the country. I mean, there's definitely a lot of English-speaking countries, but I've been translated. I don't know how many languages. I probably can't even count.
So are entrepreneurs hungrier overseas than they are here domestically?
I would say, yeah. I mean, overall, I think there's so much. I think we're so wrought with opportunity in the U.S., for example, and we're a first world, very forward-thinking country. At least we talk about the U.S. That there's been opportunities that have always presented themselves to people over the years. And then, like, for example, when we're talking about network marketing and we're in Thailand, or we're talking about network marketing and we're in, Egypt. I mean, the two guys that hired me to speak in Egypt were both pharmacists, or they were both, professional pharmacists. And when we had a chance to speak privately, these guys, after all of their education in Egypt, were making like 3 G's a month as, running pharmacies. And they within like a matter of months, both dropped their pharmacy businesses and did network marketing full time because they could quickly, through a network marketing concept, out earn what they could ever do in a typical occupation in that country. I mean, Thailand, the average wage is like $400 a month or something like that. And so for somebody to make $400 a month US, it's not that hard in network marketing. So yeah, they definitely jump all over the direct sales and network marketing model for sure.
So it's just a matter of opportunity. It's supply and demand. The opportunity seems bigger over there. Yeah. Is that primarily what it is, I guess, or?
I would say, yeah. I mean, the opportunity to earn a lot more and not be tied to that, country's economy and the way things are. Like, I mean, different countries you go into, people don't make. I've been in some very poor countries where people don't make very much at all, and even in countries like Mexico, for example, like a lot of network marketing companies, I've been in network marketing companies where they're taking a shake, for example, and they're selling it as individual shakes out of a giant canister. They're not like in the US, like, yeah, okay, we buy a canister, a shake or whatever, no big deal. They're like literally feeding people with their shakes at one serving at a time and retailing it in that manner. So it gives people the opportunity to capitalize on a much bigger opportunity, like I said, rather than being tied to that local economy.
Are they more coachable?
I would say they're very hungry, and that hunger probably does make them super coachable for sure. They're eager, man. When I go to speak in these countries, they are like on me, like white on rice or whatever that phrase is. I don't even know where that phrase came from, but I'll have to go Google that, like white on rice. Where'd that come from? I don't know where that even came from. But yeah, I mean, they're super, super hungry to want to know, to want to learn. They're very, very grateful. It's an amazing feeling. I mean, U.S. audiences when I go speak are super excited and grateful and all of that. But it's the level of gratitude in some of these other countries is pretty incredible.
So when you come back from one of those overseas speeches, you get the treatment that you get and you have the wonderful experiences. And then you come back to the US and you might be consulting with a company or doing a speech for someone here domestically. What advice do you give them from those foreign markets? I mean, what can the foreign markets and the people there teach us here? You probably mentioned some of them just a second ago, but just kind of recap that for us.
Yeah, I think, I think it's a matter of how we're laying out what we're laying out. I think there's a level of authenticity that needs to come into play in these U.S. markets. There's definitely a lot of hype that has always gone on in the network marketing profession. I think it's probably, it happens everywhere, but we've had network marketing for the most part for longer than any other country. So some of these markets where it's super new, it's just different. And honestly, there's places I go to where they don't have the kind of regulatory agencies and the regulatory environment. So people actually, many times I go to these countries and it's like, wow, this is like network marketing in the early 1980s or something. And in fact, in most of the markets outside of the US, they still do it the way, it was done way back in the day, one-on-ones, presentations, meetings. Very seldom are they using any kind of online marketing strategies or social media. Most of it's done person to person. So they're still doing the connection. I mean, I was at a deal in Asia one time and I was there with this company that was launching and I was doing a training and I was sitting in this meeting and this guy's like, yeah, I'll get some people here tonight. And he hadn't even joined the business. And then like that night he shows up with like 400 people.
Wow.
I'm like, we were like, what? Like literally he went out for the afternoon. He brought 400 people with him. That doesn't happen like that in the US.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I love hearing stories like that, and that old school approach, the one-on-ones, two-on-ones, whatever, the three-way calls, all the original way of doing things back in the 80s here, they're doing there and they're having success. I mean, right? I mean, they're building successful organizations.
Huge success. And to me, and it's funny you use the term and that's the term that's used, old school. To me, old school is, some people use the term old school. I know you don't, but use the term old school as if that doesn't work anymore. That's the way it was a long time ago. To me, old school is fundamental and foundational and that which everything else is built upon. So we got to have the right fundamentals and then we can build upon those fundamentals because to me, in our tech-driven, social media-driven society that we're in, I don't think that anything is ever going to replace, in terms of the deep level of connection, being able to actually see somebody, shake their hand, give them a hug, say hi, and actually have a real conversation rather than let me, Facebook message you. There's no significant depth in that.
Speaking of old school, I noticed you put your paper up there a minute ago with all the handwritten notes people are following up with. That's what I'm doing today. It's just in a little notebook. I actually have this. It's a pen. I don't know if some of our listeners that are on YouTube, and it's actually a pen. You actually write with it. That's how I do my stuff. You know what I mean?
And I got my journal right in front of me as well. So, and a pen.
Oh my gosh. Hey, Todd, it's been a pleasure to have you on with us. I always like to close our shows by kind of giving you the floor. I mean, I've asked a bunch of questions, whatever. There may be some things you want to cover. First of all, kudos to you, my friend. I'm a huge fan. Your success over the years has been phenomenal. By the way, before we do close the show, I did want to ask you this. You have had a lot of success. We've talked about your success. What about your failures? What about your failures? I mean, what have you learned from those? Have you had any,
Yeah, I can't say I've had any like monster failures. I have definitely had things that I've done that have not worked well. I think when I was operating, when I first got started in network marketing and I had no money, and I was operating as if I had no money. I was coming from this very desperation mindset. I just realized that that didn't serve me. And so when I started to shift my thinking and just act as if, not fake it till you make it, not lying to people saying I'm making all this money and I'm not, I just acted in a way that was different. I started to attract more people into my business. I think it's also a matter of managing our emotions. It's funny because people see me and like, man, that guy's pretty intense and he could be scary. It's like, yeah, I know I'm pretty direct and pretty straightforward. When I'm speaking, I layer a ton of humor into what I do because I'm just a goofball. But at the same time, I got emotions. I have ups and downs, and it's a matter of managing those emotions and, not getting super down if somebody quits or something doesn't go your right way, and not like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go buy this next car because this guy just signed up in my business or I just made this sale. It's just about being a little bit more level-headed. So I think getting out of desperation mode and learning to manage my emotions, those are two things that I didn't do well early on. But over the years, I've managed to kind of get a hold of both of those.
Good advice. Good stuff. So to close the show, I always like to give our guests the floor. It's your floor. It's your time. Give us some good old Todd Falcone. Go ahead.
Open floor, huh? Wow, I like that. I would suppose most of the people that are plugging into this podcast are people that are in, they're in a position where they want to build better relationships. That's why they're plugging in here, which would tell me you're probably in network marketing, direct sales, outside sales, inside sales, leading or managing or overseeing an organization. I would, sit back and reflect upon, who you are as a leader and who you are as a person that wants to have people continue to do business with you. And sometimes we have to do, a self-analysis of ourselves. Like that's one thing I've learned about being self-employed, especially self-employed. Like nobody's here to do it for you. We got to get our own butt out of bed and get after it. And we've got to ask ourselves some really tough questions. Like, would I hire me? Based on how I've been showing up the last 30 days, last 60 days, last 90 days, would I hire me or would I fire me? In what ways do I need to change? In what ways what am I doing great? And what am I not doing so good at that if I got better at would allow me to propel myself more forward in this career that I'm in? And then look at the things that you have control over, because not everything that we have, we got to look at the things that we can control. And so if you have control over something that you're not good at, like, I don't know, an example, like if you're in network marketing and you're good at, communicating and prospecting, but you have no marketing skills, you don't even understand the marketing side of the equation. Well, that's a weakness for you. Then it might be a good idea for you to understand marketing, advertising, copywriting, other things that will help you strengthen your ability to grow in the marketplace. It's like a tennis player. So I grew up playing competitive tennis, and when I played tennis, if I had a guy that had a really weak backhand, I discovered his backhand. He had a pathetic backhand within a couple volleys. I'm like, oh, where am I going to put the ball? I'm putting the ball in this guy's backhand every single time. I'll beat the pants off of him. So what does that guy need to do? He's like, oh my gosh, this guy delivered to my backhand. I lost every game. I lost every set. Okay, maybe I should work on my backhand. So look at the things that you're good at. Continue to work on those strengths. Continue to look at the weaknesses that you have, but that you need to grow and develop on. Develop those into strengths for yourself. And then I think the other thing, and this goes down to like the fundamentals of success. To me, like when I speak on a stage pretty much everywhere, success begins with a decision. It begins with you literally drawing a line in the sand and going, you know what, I'm going to do this until. Problem with both sales and network marketing, honestly, if we take those two careers, people get into network marketing, people get into, commission sales environment. They're like, I'm going to see how it goes. Right. And then when they don't deliver on their expectations that they've set for themselves, because they never really decided that they were going to do it until, like I said in the beginning, they will ultimately always exit. So, the phrase we hear in every success book, quitting is not an option, don't ever quit, whatever. Sometimes we hear things over and over again, and because we've heard it so many times, we glaze over it and we don't no longer pay attention to it. Rather than that, we should start to look at, well, wait a second, how is that actually showing up in my life? I keep hearing that the key to success is being consistent, or one of the keys to success is being consistent. Well, instead of me glazing over and consistency, instead maybe we should go, am I being consistent? What have I done actually in my business? And do those self-analysis, because that's, in the end, whether it's traditional sales in a commission environment, direct sales, multi-level marketing, network marketing, It's all about us. And in any career, if you're going to excel in any career, it's about your decisions and your ability to make the right moves to propel yourself forward.
Good work, my friend. Good work. Appreciate the time that you've spent to be with us on this show today. And we really appreciate the teaching that you've given us today. Todd Falcone, my good friend. Go to toddfalcone.com. You can find out more information about him there. He's also got instagram.com/Todd Falcone. Same thing on Facebook. Where do we get your book, Fearless Network? I'm sure Amazon and all those places.
You can get it on Amazon. You can get it right on the front page of my website. So if they go to toddfalcone.com, they can get the book for free. We just charge shipping for it, and we send it out that day. So
whether you're in network marketing or any type of commission sales, I highly recommend the book Fearless Networking. So go to his website or to Amazon and make sure you order that. It's an excellent read. So Todd, hey, thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Love to have you back on here again someday, and hopefully we see you on the stage here soon.
Sounds good, my friend. Appreciate your time.
All right. Hey, say hi to Carla. By the way, all of our listeners, those of you on YouTube, Todd's a pretty good looking dude, but you ought to see his wife. She's at a whole different level. Carla's at a whole different level. I go through the same thing with my spouse too, but please give Carla my best. She's just a sweetheart, and just appreciate knowing you guys over the years. So thank you very much.
I will do it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care now.
You too.
If you have enjoyed this episode of the Relationship Marketing Podcast with Cody B, be sure to subscribe to the show and leave a review so that together we can get this message, The Power of Human Connection, out to the world. You can find Cody's new book, The Power of Human Connection, on Amazon or the Send Out Cards gift store.